One great but controversial lover of Africa, the late Marcus Garvey, made a statement in 1923 that is still relevant today. He said, and I quote, "A race that is solely dependent upon another for economic existence sooner or later dies. As we have in the past suffered, so we will in the future suffer if an effort is not made now to adjust our own affairs," unquote. This comment was made almost 100 years ago, and our affairs in Africa are still in need of adjustment. The continent is, however, moving in the right direction. The establishment of the largest free trade area in the world, the African Continental Free Trade Area, in 2018, was a significant step towards the socio-economic development for which we have been striving. My topic for today, the role of sub-sovereign governments in deepening regional integration through the African CFTA, is apt and timely for a couple of reasons. First of all, we are at the threshold of not only concluding phase one of the African CFTA negotiations of the protocols of trade in goods and trade in services, but also the full launch of real commercially meaningful trading under the agreement. Progress is also being made with respect to negotiations regarding the protocols on investment, competition, and intellectual property rights under phase two. This conference, therefore, is a unique opportunity for us to take stock and reflect on how best to assist our citizens in realizing the full benefits of the African CFTA. Secondly, the global environment today is characterized by high geopolitical and trade tensions, including the Russia-Ukraine conflict, the increasing wave of protectionism, and rising food and commodity prices. Consequently, international cooperation between governments and sub-sovereign governments is required for Africa and other developing countries to positively respond to these challenges, especially in terms of harnessing the opportunities that they create, while mitigating the associated risks of marginalization and increased inequalities both between and within countries. It is against this background that I, an alumnus of the Nigeria Governors Forum, wish to share my views on the role of subnational governments in boosting regional trade integration in an era of globalization. We are all witnesses to the extensive impact that globalization has had on our daily lives, from changes in production techniques to the ICT revolution, environmental movements, the emergence of social media, and the increased integration of national economies through trade and financial payment systems. Globalization has also led to a shift in both global political and economic power from the nation state to corporations, thereby greatly affecting the way we produce and trade. In recent years, international trade and investment agreements have become more common. This development has raised questions about the balance of rights and obligations for sub-sovereign governments under such agreements. This is bearing in mind the fact that they are very often not part of these negotiations. The African CFTA, like other trade agreements, is designed to limit the interference of governments in the flow of goods and services. In this respect, African national governments have made a concession of their sovereignty, thereby changing the balance of power in the relationship between business and government. This also limits the scope of action and policy space available to sub-sovereign governments. Examples of this shift in the balance of power under trade agreements can be found in treaty provisions relating to dispute settlement, as well as investment and government procurement. The African CFTA follows the WTO model, in which only state parties can initiate an action which removes the ability of business entities or sub-sovereign governments to directly pursue any impairment of their rights and obligations. For example, only national authorities can file complaints under the African CFTA dispute settlement system. In terms of investment, subnational governments have the ability to promote, attract, and support investors. Their ability to help shape policy is, however, constrained by the commitments undertaken by the state parties, particularly with respect to any special incentives or support programs that target specific investors and sectors of interest. It is in recognition of these challenges that a subnational African CFTA program is already underway and is helping state governments in Nigeria develop their strategies. I am aware that more than 10 states in Nigeria have now set up their technical working groups on the African CFTA. Our charge to the states is to build an ecosystem around specific products and or service value chains to achieve a minimum of $1.2 billion of exports by the year 2035. This target is ambitious but achievable. I encourage the states that have not yet established the African CFTA technical working groups to do so. The National Action Committee on the African CFTA stands ready to assist you in all areas of need, especially regarding trade-related capacity building. The federal government has already identified high-potential products and services for trading under the African CFTA, taking into account the schedules of tariff concessions and specific commitments under the protocols on trade in goods and trade in services, respectively. The African CFTA, with its focus on trade in value-added products and services, presents huge possibilities for state or provincial governments to grow their economies by attracting and supporting export-oriented businesses. For Nigeria, I wish to encourage the state governments to reach out to our ministry and its agencies, such as the Nigeria Export Promotion Council and the Nigeria Investment Promotion Commission, for support to achieve their export and manufacturing objectives. The President Buhari administration has a number of fiscal investment incentives that can help new entrants to the market establish themselves successfully. Finally, I believe that it is time for state parties to enhance their national consultation processes on the African Continental Free Trade Area negotiations to ensure transparency, inclusiveness, and ownership of negotiation outcomes. I firmly believe that sub-sovereign governments must remain critical stakeholders in all consultations. In countries where the national governments have exclusive jurisdiction over international trade, cooperation and consultation with the sub-sovereign governments before the ratification of trade agreements is highly recommended. To our African partners, let me state unequivocally that Nigeria, as ever, is open for business. We are leveraging our skilled and youthful labor force, as well as our strategic location and our production and manufacturing potential to move forward as a key trading partner to Africa and the rest of the world. I thank you for your kind attention, and may God bless our great nation. Thank you very much.